All right, team. Wanted to just take a few minutes today to go over some basic programming principles. Steph and I have talked a lot about this lately, and she's really been pushing for me to shoot this video. It's something that I've wanted to do for a while, so thanks for staying on me for that. I'm just going to kind of go over 5 things. I'm going to start with number 5 first, though, because I think it's super important. And this is relevant, all of this stuff is really relevant to whether you're programming for group class or if you're programming for your personal training clients, if you do have that. So we always want to start with the end in mind and get to know what the client is actually looking for. And we use a process called learn, design, deliver. And what that simply means is the learn phase is where you take in the information on what the client is looking for. Once we have that, we know what they're looking for and where they're starting from. We can then design a plan accordingly that is designed to get them where they want to go. And then finally, the delivery phase is where the actual training takes place. This is also super important to understand that this part of delivery is teaching the client the why behind what it is that we design for them. So not simply saying, hey, go and front squat 5 sets of 2, but helping them understand that we're front squatting 5 sets of 2 because you need help with good upright postural stability at the bottom of your clean. You're also in the phase of your training cycle where we are developing maximal strength, and hence we're at the 5 sets of 2. Obviously that answer could be expanded upon a ton, but it really comes down to you and your relationship with your client as to what the why is for them. So that's just part of being a coach and developing as a coach over time. All right, moving on. There's a couple of quick principles that I want to go over. The first one is the SAID principle, which simply stands for specific adaptation to imposed demand. What that means is that when a stress is put onto your body has the capability of adapting to and overcoming that stress. But the adaptation is specific to what the demand was. So let's take a workout like, Karen, 150 wall balls for time. Obviously that's a ton of stress to be putting on the body, and if it's somebody that is brand new to doing that, they're probably going to be wrecked for a while, okay? But the next time that they come back and do that, they are not going to be affected as negatively as they were the first time, unless there was a tremendous gap in training or they haven't done anything or something like that. But assuming just normal exercising, not even doing wall balls or front squatting or anything, they are going to just be a little bit better prepared. The body has adapted to that specific demand. And then these are just kind of sub-principles over here. Something to keep in mind with the SAID principle is that basically what we're going for here is overload, and you'll hear the term progressive overload. So in order to get better at something, or to continue to progress for the long term, you're going to need to do more. It doesn't mean that you need to do 100% more. It means that you can do 2% more, 1% more, 0.5% more, but there has to be overload on the body in order for it to adapt and then get better. And then I put here overload via MED, which stands for acronym for minimum effective dose. So you are giving them a dose of something that will have an effect, but it's the minimal amount of that dose. So if you think of if you're sick and you take some NyQuil, the prescription on the bottle calls for like 1 or 2 tablespoons. That's the minimum dose for that to be effective. Yes, you could take 10 tablespoons, but that's not what we're looking for. In the training realm, a good analogy for this is when somebody is going to PR their deadlift, you don't need to give them a 25-pound PR. A 2-pound PR is still a PR. So we've still overloaded them, but it's the minimum effective dose. It also allows for long-term sustainability. Second principle is the FIT principle with an extra T on it. It stands for frequency, intensity, type, and time. Frequency is just referring to how often are you doing exercise. Intensity is simply a measure of how hard are you going. Type Could be like in the CrossFit world, we think of weightlifting, gymnastics, body weight type stuff, and then monostructural or like more cardio type things. And then time is how long are you working out for. I like this idea, but the CrossFit's definition of constantly varied, high-intensity functional movement, I think is just a much more easily understood definition, especially relative to what we do. All right? So those are things to keep in mind, is that we want variance, we do want intensity, although it's relative, and then we do want to focus on functional movements. Notice we're talking movements, not muscles. Third, and this is really specific to kind of the micro gym, CrossFit box type thing, although I've seen it play out in my career as a coach, is that you want your Metcon or your conditioning piece to be supported by your skill and strength work. Here's what I mean. If we are working to a heavy deadlift in the strength piece, we don't then want to put a heavy snatch into the Metcon. In a 1 hour block setting of class time or a 1 hour PT session, there's just too much auxiliary warm-up that then needs to happen at the later stage of working on the snatch where we just did a deadlift beforehand. So maybe it goes deadlift kettlebell or kettlebell deadlift or overhead squat snatch or snatch and then overhead squats, something like that, to where these two things work off of one another. And something that I learned from Exos, this was years and years and years ago before they were even known as Exos, is the way that they break up their training blocks or like their training session for the day is by designating a primary, secondary, and tertiary goal. So what this looks like is if you are given 60 minutes to go in there and work out, we want to make sure that we give full effort and full focus to the primary objective, and then the secondary, and then the tertiary, all right? So if the focus of a training session that you've designed is that I want the Metcon to be all out 100%, a lot of times, historically, like probably 95% of the time, we put Metcon second and we have the skill and strength piece first. It might be pertinent to actually flip-flop if that is the goal, the primary goal for that day. We need to make sure that we list it first. And then again, we're going to finish up with Learn, Design, Deliver, because after all of this, you program, you go through a cycle, you still need to look back and say, did I achieve the objective for the client or clients that I sent out to? Learn again, design a new plan, deliver it, and then the cycle starts back over. If you've got questions, let me know, and I'm happy to answer.